Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a little book haul, and these are all books that I thrifted since my last video. As you guys know, I thrift, I would say 95% of my books. I rarely buy books full price unless I'm at like my local bookstore or there's just like a book that I really am dying to get right at the, time it comes out. But usually I will thrift backlisted books, books that I've heard a lot about or whatever. So these are all books that have been thrifted. Some of them are more expensive, some of them are less expensive, but a lot of times, even if I don't buy books thrifted at like Goodwill or thrift stores, I will often buy my books used on Amazon. So I will go through the used little button, you like search your book and then you click used and you can find books for like $3 on there. And a majority of the time, if you click like the very good options, they're usually pretty much in pristine condition. There's only been a couple of times that I bought used books on Amazon that were just completely destroyed, but most of the time they're in decently good condition. So let's go ahead and just jump into this haul. So the first book that I bought was a book that I purchased a long time ago. So I read this book in like 2018 or 19, and I thought it was so funny. I actually got it at Goodwill. And I read it, thought it was hilarious, laughed so hard while reading this book, and then for some strange reason I decided to donate it. Like, I don't know why, I was just like, oh, you don't want that book anymore. So I donated it, and right after I donated it, I regretted it because I was like, I want to read that book again. It was so funny, and I'm so sad that I donated it because there were so many funny stories in it, and I want to read them again. So I have been hunting for this book again in Goodwill, hoping that I would come across it. And sure enough, I finally did, and I'm already rereading it because it was just so funny. And it is Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Brosh. And this book is just so good. Like, it's funny. She has such a way with words that just is unlike any other book I've read. She's like really sarcastic and really funny, but really smart in how she puts her words together. There's something about her writing that is just really smart. Like, you can tell Ali is a very smart person, but she writes in a very relatable, sarcastic way, and it's just perfect. It's perfect, especially with the drawings. But not only that, like, there are like stories in here that are so like hard-hitting and a lot more deep, but she tells them in a funny, humorous way, which makes them even better. So there's this whole chapter actually on depression and how her depression felt, and she was kind of like describing it and things like that, but she did it in like a really humorous way, but at the same time it was really well done. Like, anybody who's dealt with depression or anything like that would so relate to her description of what depression feels like, while at the same time kind of like making you laugh while reading it. It's just such a unique way of writing. I cannot stress how much you should read this book. It is just so good and it's so funny, and I'm so glad I finally found it and that I'm rereading it. So the next book is a book that I actually saw on TikTok ages ago, and it's one of those books that you come across and you're like, oh, I want to read that, but you never actually pick it up unless you somehow stumble across it and you're like, oh, I remember that book, like, I want to read it. And it was this girl who was saying it was so good, like one of the best like horror thrillers that she has ever read in her entire life. And I was so curious about it, and somehow I came across it at Goodwill, and it was $3.99, which is such a good deal, but it's called The Moonlight Child. And this is like about a girl or a woman who lives in a house, and she has these neighbors across the street, and one day she is up super late at night and she sees like this little girl in this house across the street, and she's like, I've never seen her before, like, who is that girl? And then her daughter moves in with her, and her daughter starts noticing this little girl in this house across the street, and they're like really weirded out by her because they've never seen her before. And she's only there in the middle of the night. So they're trying to figure out like what's going on, and apparently this is like really good from what I hear. So I'm excited to read this just because of the hype that I heard about it on TikTok. The next book is All Good People Here. We've already talked about this one though because it's on my TBR for this month. This is a book about just like a weird town, and I don't really know much else about it, but I've heard good things about it, but I really don't know much. I think it's just kind of like your basic kind of small town thriller with lots of gossip, and I think it's kind of like a murder mystery type of situation. So I really want to read this, and it's on my TBR this month. I don't know if I'm actually going to get to it this month like I wanted to, but yeah, it's going to be good for like, when I'm in the mood for like a murder mystery type of thing. So the next book is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is a short story collection that is really popular. So I've seen this around for years, and I've wanted to read it for so long. And the reason why this has always intrigued me is because A, it's short, it's a short story, but it's like a series, but each book is pretty short, but it's like a sci-fi, I think it's like machine, sentient machine type of thing maybe, I'm not exactly sure. But these have such good ratings, like really, really high ratings. This has been like raved about. So I think it's about a robot who is sentient, and it's like the murder bot, but it's kind of grappling with its sentience. And there's a whole bunch of like scornful humans that like want to use it, but all it wants to do is be left alone to figure out who it is. When a neighboring mission goes dark, it is up to the scientists and their murder bot to get the truth. So I don't know, it sounds kind of deep. It sounds kind of like, I love a good like sentient robot or like a sentient artificial intelligence type of thing. It's one of my favorite little tropes. The Illuminae series up here, right there, is one of my favorite series ever because of the like kind of sentient AI. So hopefully this kind of like hits that trope really, really well. I'm hoping that it does, but I think it sounds really good. So the next book that I found was from Goodwill as well. This was $4.99, and this is Carmela. And this is a cult classic that inspired Dracula. And this intrigued me right away. For one, it's like a short story, and for two, it's kind of struck me as maybe similar vibes to A Dowry of Blood. I don't think obviously it's going to be exactly like that, but I just had those vibes when I was kind of like skimming the inside. It kind of just gave the same vibes as A Dowry of Blood, and you guys know how much I loved that book. And I am so curious about this. It says, an isolated castle deep in the Austrian forest, Laura leads a solitary life with only her ailing father for company, until one moonlit night a horse-drawn carriage crashes into view carrying an unexpected guest, the beautiful Carmela. So begins a feverish friendship between Laura and her mysterious, entrancing companion. But as Carmela becomes increasingly strange and volatile, prone to eerie nocturnal wanderings, Laura finds herself tormented by nightmares and growing weaker by the day. Predating Dracula by 26 years, Carmela is the original vampire story, steeped in sexual tension and gothic romance. Sounds fabulous. Like, I'm so excited to read this. I think it sounds so good and so interesting, and I've never read Dracula. I don't know if I ever will read Dracula, to be honest, but I just think this sounds really, really fun. And the writing was very, like, easy to read. I'm just curious about this, so hopefully I like it. So the next book that I picked up was An Education Malice by S.T. Gibson, which was the same author that wrote A Dowry of Blood. So speaking of A Dowry of Blood, I bought this because I wanted to try out another one of her books. This is like a dark academia novel, and I just am curious. I want to try out one more book by her just to see if, A Dowry of Blood is kind of like a one-off novel that I really liked. And it could be because I've heard very mixed things about this one. The thing about this though is I was kind of reading through it, and the writing definitely isn't as beautiful and lyrical as A Dowry of Blood. I don't know if it was like the vibes that she was trying to portray in that book. I don't know if she was trying to, write as if she was writing in that time period, which I'm sure was like a key reason for writing the way that she wrote while writing that one, but it was so stunning. And when I was reading this one, like little bits of it, I was like, it's not quite the same. But the storytelling might still be just as good as A Dowry of Blood, so we'll see. I'm curious. Who knows if I'll like it, who knows if I'll hate it, but the cover is stunning. I love this cover, and I'm just really curious. Like I said, it's a sapphic, I think dark academia type of situation, and one of the main characters in this book is actually named Carmela, so it's interesting. I wonder if she was inspired at all by Carmela. I don't know, maybe, but yeah. Interesting book choice for after talking about Carmela. Okay, so the next book is The Collective by Allison Galen. This is a Book of the Month book, and whenever I see Book of the Month books at Goodwill, I always pick them up and read the back because I'm always kind of curious about them. And this book was $6.99, which I think they price Book of the Month books a little bit higher usually than just like regular books, but this is a thriller, like murder mystery story, and it's about a mom whose daughter gets murdered, I think, and she believes that this guy is responsible, but she doesn't know for sure. So she ends up going online and she finds like this dark web forum type of thing where it's like these moms that are like trying to figure out the death of their loved ones, and they're kind of like really, really dark and kind of demented, and she kind of thinks it's like kind of lighthearted and a joke at first. But then she starts to realize, like, the longer she's in this forum, that she doesn't think that these moms are actually joking. Like, they're actually going to solve these murders and like follow through with some of their really, really weird plans that she thought they were joking about. And so she's kind of trying to decide like what to do now, because she kind of got into it too, like what would I do if I was to, you know, get vengeance or whatever. And then she realizes that these plans that these women are making aren't a joke. And so she gets like sucked into this dark web situation. I looked this up on Goodreads when I was kind of looking through the books, and this has a pretty high rating, so I was definitely curious about it because of the high rating. And it just looks like it's going to be kind of good. And the font is large as well, which I love large font. For some reason, it just makes it easier for me to read. So I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be kind of fun and interesting. So the next one that I picked up was Nora Goes Off Script. This got really popular fairly recently, and this is about a woman who basically has a really toxic marriage, and her husband like breaks up with her, they get a divorce, and it's just this really crazy story. So she decides to write a like movie about it, or a script or a book or whatever, because it's just such a crazy story. And then they decide to adapt this book into a movie, and the person playing her ex-husband ends up being like this heartthrob guy, like one of the top actors, and he ends up needing, I think, like a fake dating situation or something, and he like pays her to like fake date her or something, or like to like, I don't know, it's something along those lines. But it sounds really interesting. It sounds like a really unique plot. Like I love creative, unique plots in romances, and this sounds like it's gonna be unique, so I'm excited for this one. Plus, like, it's very, very short. I feel like this is gonna be a really quick book to get through, and I just think it sounds kind of fun, and I think a lot of people have rated this pretty high, so I'm excited for that one. Next is a book that I have been looking everywhere for. Every time I go to Goodwill, I go to the biography section, and I'm like, this is going to be in the biography section. It has to be, because it was so popular, and I know that people are going to get rid of this book, and I'm going to see it in the biography section. So I've been waiting, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and checking and checking and checking, and it's never freaking there. So finally I caved in, because I kind of want to reread this, I'm not going to lie, or just reread parts of it. And so I went on Amazon, I bought it in the used section for like $3, and it is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I talked about how much I love this book. I think it was last year, or was it the year before? Could have been the year before, I can't remember. But I love this book. I thought it was so fantastic. She is such a good writer, and I just really wanted to kind of like reread this again. I don't know why, it was just so well done, and I was just tired of waiting around for it. And I can guarantee you, this has happened to me so many times, whenever I get tired of waiting to like come across a book in Goodwill, I will buy it on Amazon, and then literally the next week I will see it at Goodwill. It happens so often, and I guarantee you within like a week or two, I'm gonna see this in Goodwill, and I'm gonna be like, really? But like I said, it was only $3. It was like I thrifted it anyways, but I'm really excited to read this again. And this is just a book that I really wanted in my possession, like a physical copy, because I did love it so much, and I do like to try to collect the books that I really, really, really like. And this was just one of them, so I had to buy it. So the next book I picked up was also a Goodwill book, and this was $6.99, and this is a book that I've heard a little bit about, and I was just curious about it. I thought it sounded really good. So this is called Night Walking, or Night Crawling, sorry. And this was in Oprah's book club. This is by Layla Motley. Kiara and her brother Marcus are scraping by in an East Oakland apartment, optimistically called Regal High. Both have dropped out of high school, their family is fractured by death in prison, but while Marcus clings to his dreams of rap stardom, Kiara hunts for work to pay their rent, which has more than doubled, and to keep the 9-year-old boy next door abandoned by his mother safe and fed. One night, what begins as a drunken misunderstanding with a stranger turns into a job Kiara never imagined, which is night crawling. Now, I don't know what night crawling is, and I looked it up online, and I looked it up in Urban Dictionary and everything, and I couldn't find a definition for night crawling, like what that is. I don't know if it's like prostitution. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what it is. Like, I never figured out what night crawling means. So if somebody wants to let me know in the comments, you can. But I think it's just a girl in a hard situation that finds kind of a sketchy job situation and goes for it to make money, to help pay for rent, and to help the little boy next door, and to just survive, basically. So this sounds really, really interesting and really good. Definitely more of like a hard hitter. And I think this cover is just so cool as well. Like this color combination is so pretty. The next one actually was not a thrifted book. This is the one other book that I actually bought for full price, because I wanted it so badly, and I couldn't pass it up. And it is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. So this book has gotten rave reviews, and So many people said it's just so cozy and so just like such a great like cozy cottagecore vibe, and I just was really interested in this. I guess it has like a romance in it, and I don't know, just so many people said this book was fantastic, and I really wanted the purple sprayed edges, and this is a first edition, and apparently it's just a really cozy little like romance fantasy, a cozy fantasy if you will, and I thought this would be really good for like the fall season because I love cozy feeling books in the fall, and I feel like this would be the perfect fall read. And just because I heard such amazing things, I feel pretty confident in buying this full price. Hopefully I like it as much as other people do, but this cover is just gorgeous. The next book is another book I bought full price. I thought there was only going to be like one, maybe two, but this one was also full price as well. But Elena made me buy it because Elena loves this anime. Both her and Emery love this anime, and they've been telling me over and over and over to watch it. And I don't like really watching anime. I'm just not an anime girl. But I was like, I'll read the manga. And so we saw it at Goodwill, and do you guys ever go to the library wanting to read the manga, but the first manga is always checked out every single time? They have like the entire collection, but like the first two are always checked out, and you can never ever get your hands on them. That is how it is at my library. So I was like, I'll just buy the first two and read them, and then I'll probably be able to read the rest from the library eventually. So it is Spy Family, and I've heard just such good things about this, and this is by Tatsuya Endo. And not only do the girls love this, Travis also thought it was really cute, and I've seen so many other YouTubers read this as well and say it's like super cute. And I've been wanting to read it for a while, I'm not gonna lie. So when Elena told me to buy it, she talked me into it, and I finally did. So now I'm gonna know what the girls are talking about when they're talking about Spy Family, because I think that Emery, for Halloween this year, she wants to be Anya, which is the little pink-haired girl. So it'd be really good to like kind of know the character that she wants to be for Halloween and just kind of have some sort of reference point for it. So Spy Family Volume 1, and then when I get done with this, and if I like it, then I'll get Volume 2, and then hopefully I'll be able to read the rest from the library. So yes, Spy Family. Next is My Roommate is a Vampire. So I've been drawn to this book since it came out, and I think it's the cover art. It's so flippin' cute. I love this cover so much. Like normally I don't love like cartoony romance book covers. I think they're cheesy. I think the art is often not very good. But this is one like cartoon romance cover that I really like, and I'm just curious about this. I've heard mixed things about it. Like some people have said it's like really cute, and then other people were just kind of like, it was okay. But I just really want to read it. I don't know. I've always wanted to read this ever since I saw it for the first time, and this was on Book Outlet, so I decided to pick it up. So it was pretty cheap. I don't know the exact price of this, probably like $5 or something like that, I don't know. But I'm excited for this one. I think this will be a really good fall read as well. If I'm in the mood for a romance, but I want something with like vampires or something like that, this will be a really fun one, so I'm excited for this. My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. And then this one I also got at Goodwill, and this was $6.99. This one was a bit more expensive, and I think it's because it's like a hardback, and it's a fairly new release, and this was a Reese's Book Club book. But it is Wrong Place, Wrong Time, and this is a story, it's kind of like a Groundhog's Day type of story where the same day happens over and over again. And so what she ends up seeing on the first day is her son commit a heinous crime. So he murders somebody, and she sees it happen before her eyes. And so she's like, oh crap, like my son murdered somebody, he's gonna spend the rest of his life in prison. So she goes to bed that night, and then when she wakes up in the morning, it's the day before. So she can relive that day to try to stop her son from like doing this crime, and then she goes to sleep and she wakes up again in that same day, and it's kind of a Groundhog's Day type of thing to prevent this horrible thing from happening. At first I was kind of like, do I want to read this? Because I've heard really good things about it, and then I've also heard, you know, so-so things, which is common. I mean, that's usually what happens. Some people like it, some people don't. But when I opened this up, the font is really big. Like, this is large print. And like I said, I love large print. There's something about large print that I love. It makes it so easy for me to read. Like when I'm on my Kindle, I put it like really large. Like there's something that it does to my eyes. And this is such a large print book. Like I don't know if it's actually like a large print version. I'm not sure, but it was so satisfying to look at. And I'm like, I would love to read this. So I'm gonna read this one soon. I think it sounds pretty good. I don't read a lot of Groundhog's Day type of things, but we're gonna give this one a try. And then last but not least was another book that I found at Goodwill, and it was $3.99, and this is Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. So I have seen this book around for years and years and years and years. Well, not years and years, but you know, it's been around for a while, and I have no idea if I'm gonna like this or not. Like, I've seen it, and I've always been curious about it, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but we're gonna give it a try. I mean, it's a romantasy, so it probably has, you know, it's a smutty romantasy. I think Katie Robert is known for being more of a, like a spicy writer. So we're gonna try this, and if I end up liking it, I think that this is a series, then I'll continue on with the series. If not, then I won't. But it's definitely not a short one. It's about 470 pages or so, give or take, but we're gonna give this a try and see. I love a good romantasy, so hopefully this is a good one. I couldn't pass it up though. It's $3.99, and I've seen this everywhere, so I had to buy it. I'm hoping it's good. If you've read this, let me know like what your thoughts were. That is it for this video. Those are all the books that I thrifted recently. Like I said, there was a few in there that weren't thrifted, but for the most part, all of those were thrifted or bought for like, you know, half price or whatever. So that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what book you think I should read first, or if any of these books were like really, really good, like one of your all-time faves. I'd just be really curious your guys' thoughts on some of these books, and I think that's it. So I'll see you guys in my next video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!